Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. You know, if you watch my videos much, you'll know that I eat pretty low carb. And you'll also know that I'm pretty tired of cauliflower. So I'm always looking for new ways to serve cauliflower. And this is one I think I invented. Cauli-Tato Tots. Probably I didn't really invent it. Probably a million people have done it. But it's new to me. And it sure does make the cauliflower taste great. I'm going to show you how I did this. In the meantime, give us a thumbs up. And subscribe. And click the little bell icon in the top right. And you'll get a notice when I post new videos. Now let's get cooking. So I'm going to start with a potato. Notice I didn't call this keto. It's just low carb. It's real low carb. But if it has a potato, you don't call it a keto. I cut the end off because it had a little bad spot, and I'm going to weigh it. This will give me about 8 ounces final product. I'm going to bake this in the oven 425 for 45 minutes. When it's done, I'm going to drop it down in some ice. You can let it cool naturally, but I want it to cool quickly. And here are the rest of our ingredients. I've got some salt. I've got some garlic powder. I've got some cumin. You may have noticed before that I often add just a touch of cumin to cauliflower dishes. It really helps blend the cauliflower flavor into the other ingredients. There's 1 egg. And this is a 12-ounce package of riced cauliflower that I bought. Frozen. You can rice your own if you like, just don't cook it too done. This is a small pack of pork rinds. You're going to want 2 to 3 ounces of pork rinds. And we're going to grind those in the food processor really finely. And I'm going to use some CarbQuick. That big container is CarbQuick. But I pulled out this bag just to show you what it is. It's a low-carb baking mix. I use it for a lot of things. Hot cakes, biscuits, gravy. You can find it on Amazon or at Tova Industries. Then I'm going to peel my potato and cut off any little brown spots that you might find. Now, I only baked this for 45 minutes at 425. I would have baked a normal potato for an hour. See, I've got a couple of little bad spots there I'm going to cut off. I don't want it totally done. Another way you can do this is to boil it. If you've got your water boiling, you can boil it for about 35-40 minutes. And it'll be almost done, but not quite. Because when I'm done, I'm going to grate this. And I want to leave the potato with some substance, some firmness. And if you bake it for the whole hour, it's going to be really soft and fluffy. And soft and fluffy is good for a baked potato, but not for this. We want it to be in little tiny chunks. So by the time I get through cutting this and trimming it and peeling it, I'm going to lose somewhere between 1 ounce and 2 ounces of potato. I'm sorry, I'm not square on frame there. You know, I make these videos by myself. I handle the camera and everything. That's why you almost never see my face, because it's hard for me to tape my own face. I don't do selfies. So while I'm doing this boring job, let me talk a little bit about potatoes and a low-carb diet. You can't eat very much potato on a low-carb diet, but that doesn't mean you can't eat any. Unless you're on a strictly keto way of eating. I eat about 50 grams of carbs a day. That keeps my glucose levels right, and I can have an occasional potato or piece of bread. And I go clearly by carbs. So an 8-ounce potato is going to be about 22, 23 net grams of carbs. And I find if I can get the right proportion of potato to cauliflower, I enjoy my food a whole lot more, and it's still low carb. The mixture I'm going to have here, I'm going to end up making 20 or 21 pretty large tater tots, and they're going to be 1.14 grams of carbs each. I can live with that. And I wasn't paying attention. I was talking. You saw that I grated my potato. And it's in not big pieces, but separate pieces. And that's how I want it. Now, I prepared my frozen cauliflower by cooking it in the microwave half the time the package calls for. I want it thawed out. I don't want it cooked. So now I've got 2½ cups of potato cauliflower mixture. That's 1 teaspoon of salt. Remember, nothing has been salted yet. Potatoes need some salt. I've put 1 full teaspoonful. I'll taste it later and I may add a little bit more. Potatoes generally take a lot of salt. And then I'm going to add my garlic powder, ½ teaspoonful, and a 1/4 teaspoonful of cumin. And let's talk about other things that you might add. You might also grate a little raw onion into this, or if you have something where you can chop it very, very, very fine, you can use that. Or you can use onion powder, or you can use some chives. Those add a good flavor to it. I'm just not doing all that right now. The cumin brings some good flavor, but be very careful not to overdo the cumin. 1/4 teaspoonful is plenty for this. And I really wouldn't add much more than that to it. That's plenty. You know, tater tots are mostly potato. And I'm going to give this a taste for salt before I add the raw egg. And it's just fine. A teaspoonful was plenty. You can do this in a different proportion, by the way. You can keep the 1 cup of potato and do 2 or 2½ cups of cauliflower. You get a lot more and they'll be lower carb. But this works. It gives you a good texture. I'm going to beat this egg up and put it in the mixture. And sort of stir it in all around. Now, the egg is just to hold the binder together. It's to sort of give them some substance, keep them from falling all apart in your pan. And these are a little more tender than a regular potato tot would be. So if you choose to increase your cauliflower amount, then you're also going to want to add an extra egg. This is a 1/4 cup of CarbQuick. You can use a 1/4 cup of flour, but that adds an awful lot of carbs. If you have some other kind of baking mix, you can add that. Low-carb baking mix or gluten-free baking mix. This is not gluten-free. Someone asked me about that the other day. CarbQuick is not gluten-free. So I'm mixing that around pretty carefully because I don't want to break it all up. But now I want to make sure that it's going to hold together because I can always add some more CarbQuick. And so I'm pulling out a heaping teaspoonful, which is about what the size I'm going to make my tater tots, and kind of roll them around and make sure they stick together. And I think this is good right here, but don't hesitate to add more of the binder, the CarbQuick, the flour, or whatever you're using. These are good to go. So in a plate here, I have my ground up pork rinds, and you really want to grind them very, very finely, almost as finely as flour. And I'm going to take out that amount. Now, I'm making these a little bit bigger than what you would buy in a bag at the grocery store with the trademarked name that I'm really trying not to use. And I don't have a little machine. Actually, I think Tupperware used to make a machine to shape these, but these are very easily shaped by hand. Just press them together really well and then form them into a kind of a cylinder that's a little bit bigger than what you would buy. And then I'm going to roll it. Here, let me get this where you can see it. Roll it in the pork skins. Now, the reason for the pork skins, there's an upside and a downside to using the pork skins. The upside is it makes them crispy and it really adds a great flavor. The downside is it makes them brown a lot. So to cook them done, it's going to be browner than what you would, if you were just making pure potato, they're going to end up a little bit browner. And I think they look fine, but just be aware that they cook very dark with the pork skins on. And you do have to cook them, well, I'll show you the cooking. Anyway, just be aware that using the pork skins to add the flavor and the crunchiness also adds a little, makes them brown a little bit darker. And I'm just going to do a couple of these and let you see how they turn out. And I'll finish, and then I'll be right back. All finished. Got about 21. These are going in the freezer for at least 2 hours. Overnight's better. And now they're frozen solid, and I'm going to pop them off and put them in a bag and just take out as many as I want at a time. You can cook them without being frozen solid, but they do much better if you freeze them. So let's cook up a few. And I've taken out 5. I've got a 9-inch skillet here. I'm going to keep the skillet kind of small so I don't use so much oil. And you see I've dropped in a little bit and it sizzles, so it's ready. Now I'm going to fry these 3.5 minutes on each side. That's about the amount of oil I've got there. It covers them up halfway. If you've got a deep fryer, you can do that. They'll cook much quicker in a deep fryer. And as I say, you'll be a little bit fooled by the color because they look dunner than they are, and you don't want them cold in the middle when you're done. So give them a good 3.5 minutes on each side. You probably want to go 5 minutes total if you have a deep fryer. I never use a deep fryer, just hardly ever, so I'm not sure, but I'd say that. And here's a little safety tip. It's been 3.5 minutes. I'm going to turn them over. You see how the oil is foaming? That's from the meat skins. So don't overfill your pan. It's not going to boil up and over, but it is going to foam up a little bit. So I'm turning it over. These tongs are not working too great. You know, sometimes I just have to tell you this. My vanity makes me tell you this. I'm really not as clumsy as I look on these videos sometimes. I'm just working around a camera. And sometimes I have trouble reaching around the camera. So there you go. I'm getting them turned. And you can see they're getting a really nice brown on them. So 3.5 more minutes on that side, and I'll be back. Okay, they're about done. I'm going to start pulling these out, and I've ditched the tongs. And look at that. Now, those are nice. Whoops, that one escaped. I'll have to get it. And you want to work pretty quickly because they'll get real brown real fast at this point. And I take them out and drain them just a little bit. When you see me shaking them like that, that's what I'm doing, is I'm shaking a little bit of the oil off back into the pan. And you see that little foam there. It's got some little tiny pieces of meat in it, meat skins. So tonight I'm having breakfast for dinner. I've got some dippy eggs and some bacon. And I'm going to plate that all up and put these on there. Think I got enough bacon? That's only about 6 pieces. So let's cut into this. And let me show you. Well, let me get to it. My plate's too small. I want you to look at the inside. Now that is creamy and luscious inside. And my sauce of choice there, my ketchup. And this is so good. And you know, I love dippy eggs, but I don't eat them very much anymore because I don't eat much bread. But you can dip these into the bread, into the dippy eggs like bread, and it's good, 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 good. So if you're eating really low carb and you're missing potato, this may work for you. I hope you try it, and I hope you like it. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.